Hi everyone, welcome to Multiple University Psychology Club Peer Psychology Days. My name is Serena Yüksel. I'm a first year psychology student. I'm a board member of the Multiple University Psychology Club, also the leader of the blog and content team. I'll be the moderator of this session. So today we are with dear Darya Haitoglou, who is a psychologist and a systemic relationship coach. She'll be talking about stress, happiness, and motivation. At the end of the session, there will be a Q&A. You can ask them from the chat section. I'll be reading them loudly to Darya. So again, welcome Darya. How are you?
Thank you, Serena. Very well, and so happy to see so many of you. I'm quite excited and impressed that 111, I love the numbers, appeared to be today, sharing your time, your heartbeats on Saturday. It's afternoon, Saturday evening for some. So I'm really excited to share the space also with all of you. So let me share my screen. Let's start from the beginning. Welcome. You're now 128. I'm glad I waited because this is a topic of stress, happiness, and motivation. I'm a psychologist and systemic coach, and today we're going to be not just talking, but hopefully we will have some experiences because you probably heard the saying, tell me and I will forget, show me and I may remember, but involve me and I will learn. So I would like us to learn experientially today. A little bit about me. I come from Siberia, from Russia, married to a Greek whose family used to live in Turkey, hence the surname. And we are all British by passports, but the boys were born in Switzerland. And the third baby on the way is going to be hopefully born in Greece. We're moving next month. This work that I'm involved in, I have a big mission to help 1 billion people create congruent, love-rich, blame-free families and individuals. I do it through private practice, through retreats, workshops, seminars like this one around the world. I cover many companies and organizations from orphanages in Siberia and Nepal to very well-known companies like you can see here, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and P&G and alike. And many people who come to these workshops, they have different motivation. So my first question to you, and I would like you to use the chat box, why are you here? What is your motivation to be in today's presentation? And what would motivate you to stay for this hour fully present? I know there are many distractions and one of them are very evident. So I would like you to turn the screen down if possible so we can have a full connection. And that's the best learning. If it's for you personally, if it's for you professionally, if it's for somebody you will work with, this time, your heartbeats, this 1 hour, I would like you to dedicate to yourself. And from my side, my hope for today's presentation is for you to get inspired and learn something new. And again, learning is through doing. So as you're listening, hopefully you can jot down some notes, but most importantly, be present as much as you can. And you will see what happens when you do this very little practice of being present. Now, let's start with what is happiness. Happiness can be very simply something that makes you feel happy, or it's a ratio between what you expect and what the reality is. And the closer this reality to your expectations, the happier generally we are. I put it this way: happiness is a state of well-being characterized by emotions ranging from contentment to intense joy. And again, it's not like a flow state or a Zen state where it is a nirvana. No, happiness can be just incremental space of feeling better. It can be better than just feeling content, or maybe there is a very nice intensity to it. Now, let me ask you, what is your, on average, week? If you take an average week, let's do a little survey. And for that, I would like to stop sharing and let's see. And can you just put in one box in the chat? So out of, let's say, scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is nothing, 10 is maximum, how stressed do you normally feel? And again, there's no right or wrong. There is no good or bad. It's just your subjective feeling of stress. And the same line, so I can see that it's yours. How happy do you feel? And then how happy do you want to feel? From 0 to 10. Again, where 10 is maximum happiness, intense joy, and 0 is nothing, maybe depression. So find the number and put it there. And the third component of this little survey is how motivated are you to stay for this hour? Again, from 0 to 10. Can you please share this through the box? And I will pick it up later as we will be doing the experiential part at the end. Actually highlight and thank you, and activate, they get activated when we experience, for example, stress, pain. It can be from physical stress, physical pain could be from social exclusion or bereavement, grief, being treated unfairly, or negative social comparison. And it's very different to the reward or pleasure network, we call it, when we experience physical pleasures, when we have good reputations, kind of a mental pleasure, when we've been treated fairly, or when we're cooperating, when we have this sharing for charity, or even Schadenfreude, this concept, the German name is for when somebody is suffering and we feel, wow, I don't do that. That's actually bad. I am quite well compared to others. And that's why we like this celebrity culture when we see the celebrities suffering, and we also have this reward network somehow activated. So remember these two. Now let's look into the hormones that get activated under pain and stress. We know that adrenaline and noradrenaline produced by the adrenal gland flood our body with these hormones. Now, what happens? We have blood vessel contractions, lack of oxygen and glucose to our nerve cortex. We have tunnel vision, tunnel thinking, rejecting new ideas, and there is a blocked creativity. And on top, the hormone called cortisol is produced, which long-term weakens our immune system and reduces neurogenesis. Neurogenesis is the ability to regenerate our cells. On the other hand, the pleasure circuitry, and when we experience happiness, we have this flood of endorphins, dopamine, and oxytocin. Dopamine is a hormone of pleasure and motivation, we call it, and the oxytocin is the hormone of trust. We will talk a little bit more about those. The dilation of blood vessels, the expansion, the opportunity to relax, to rest and digest, have more oxygen and glucose to our neocortex, and we feel good about it. Now, the good news is that we at any time in our life can change physiologically our brain because of the concept called neuroplasticity. You probably have heard it. It's the ability to carve new pathways, neurological connections, and strengthen those pathways so that we can create new experiences. There's a classical study of the London taxi cab drivers. Those people who drive in London, they have to learn all maps of London by heart. It takes several years. And guess what? When they started learning, even in their 60s, in their 70s, when they were older, their hippocampus, the area in the brain that's responsible for visual navigation in space, has enlarged. So what we know from these kind of studies is that our brain can change up until we alive. And before, psychological knowledge was that no, we are born with certain activity, predisposition, with certain capacity, with certain set of neurons. Now we know we actually can increase and change and shape. For example, musicians, they have an enlarged cerebellum. It's an area in our brain that's responsible for the motor skills. Because they play from the very early age different musical instruments, that part of the brain gets activated and enlarges. So at any time in our life, we can change and switch from stress and pain into pleasure and happiness. And that is the path we want to take because of the long-term effect on our body. And why the future is quite bleak. When we look at from the amount of stress that's coming on, it's not going to get easier. It's going to be exponentially more difficult for us to process the different stimuli, the different technological advancements that come in our way with changes at work. We are all Generation C. Do you know what Generation C is? Generation COVID or coronavirus, you know. So, but also we're a generation of courage, of collaboration, connection. Look at us, we're across the world. I'm in the UK, you're in Turkey, some of other people around the world. We're connecting through this technology. And thanks to that, we also develop our prefrontal cortex. Now, of course, we need to take into account these expectations for immediate gratification. I don't know if some of you lived in, you're probably much younger than me, but I remember the time when I used to write letters to my friends and would wait for 2-3 months to get a reply. Now we touch the button and we expect an immediate answer on our message. And if they don't, we have this anxiety. Why haven't they answered? They've seen my message and something is wrong. Is the relationship under threat? So we're scanning this world of interactions for demands for the brain to be soothed, so we feel that pleasure, that gratification, that dopamine release. And it's going to get even faster moving with virtual reality, augmented reality, with artificial intelligence. There are so many new technologies coming our way, and our poor little brain, okay, we can develop the prefrontal cortex quite fast and rapidly. The limbic system, which is in the middle part of the brain, is a little bit more tricky to develop in terms of speed, especially the amygdala, that little organ that interprets the events, whether it's a threat or whether it's a friend. It will need time and training. So what you're doing now, you're also training your brain. And finally, the reptilian part, the brainstem that connects to the spine, to our vagus nerve that goes through the whole body. And I will share the forefront research, the advanced research that we collectively have gathered as psychologists in this world. And some of the doctors and psychiatrists, as well as researchers, they do fantastic piece of work. So stay tuned. Now, what happens when the brain is overloaded? Of course, it either shuts down or it starts to learn new fast ways. It's like a mental fast food. We want to get our attention switched. You know, I bet you're doing something at the same time as listening. If you're not, that's great, because you exercise in the muscle of concentration. If you're doing something else at the same time as listening, I invite you to remove the distractions and concentrate and see, hear, and do it. Ideally, use your motor skills to write. We will stand up in a bit to do some exercises, but just try to pay attention how many thoughts you have at the same time, and stay present with me. Now, statistics quite alarmingly show to us that there is a big stress epidemic. It's not just pandemic, but we have more than 121 million people suffering from depression. And this is just a data of North America, the United States. More than 52% worldwide divorce rates, and that's not America, but it's a whole. 1 in 2 couples separate because of the tension, because of the demands. Now the brain wants, not just the brain, but our whole culture is about finding the best relationship, person who will be with us for a long time, who will be our safe and exciting partner, who will have children with, but also go traveling, who will be understanding us, but will be not too similar, so we're not bored, and we live twice as long. So it's gonna a lot of stress on families, especially young families who work, when 2 parents work. And what happens when we're under stress? Well, 1 in 5 report drinking alcohol to manage their stress, and 16% reported smoking, and 48% reported overeating or eating unhealthy foods to manage stress. Now, that is quite alarming for me. now to the good things. So what can we do about it? Because of course we know that there's plenty of stress out there. Yes, we have our sympathetic nervous system on alert, that fight and flight response. What we know also from the Steve Porges polyvagal theory, it's not just fight or flight and rest and digest, sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. We also have a third one, okay, which, so if you think of the rest and digest as a green zone, then we move into the yellow kind of amber zone of fight and flight, when we get activated from stress and we start being maybe angry, frustrated with something or somebody. But at some point, especially under traumatic extreme stress, the body can go into the hypo activity, which is also parasympathetic nervous system. It's a freeze or faint state when we shut down our ability to comprehend, to make really good decisions with our prefrontal cortex, where our whole nervous system, especially feelings, are kind of frozen. It's think of it like a kind of compressed energy in our body, and the limbic system, the emotions, they sort of deactivate, disconnect from ourselves. So kind of we feel out, we don't feel our body, we don't feel ourselves, we don't have that much empathy for others. So in order to move, and that's the red zone, that's kind of like some people do spiritual bypassing, going into too much of spirituality or meditation and the guru kind of type. Some people just have a lot of addictive kind of a behavior to soothe. It could be depression, it could be shutting down, and a lot of us currently in the state of global pandemic show this kind of signs, because we had to shut down, we had to isolate and quarantine. And in order for us to get back into the green zone, to the bottom of the social engagement, like we're doing now. I wish I could hear you. If I were with you in your room, I would like to interact and ask you questions. But let's imagine, okay, it's also important. Let's imagine we're connected and we can see each other and we are in the same room like friends, connected. So I'm going to share with you this method that worked for many companies. I call them super functional beings. Some dysfunctional, I work with them too, but I like to work with super functional beings. Why? Because they have super motivation. And why do they have this hyper motivation? It's because they're longing, they're yearning to succeed. There's something about that dopamine release that associated to the motivation, and I'll share with you why. So let's start. And I created this method a few years ago because I saw different, let's say, giants, the experts in the fields doing different kind of work. And I follow the systemic approach, systemic psychology of Virginia Satir, the mother of family therapy. I'm a director of the Institute of Virginia Satir in the UK, and also I'm very close to the global network. I know a few of you also participate. That's wonderful to see. And we welcome more people, and because it's juicy, it's powerful, it's effective piece of work. So this Enrich method is based on Virginia Satir's model that she created in the 60s, 70s, but I've enriched it as well with my little sort of fusion cuisine of mental understanding. So let's dig in. Let me share with you this method with 6 different concepts. Each of them stands for different thing that we're gonna do. So explore, nourish, respond, imagine, communicate, and hugs. Now, every concept corresponds on a hormonal level to balancing one of a few actually, but primarily the different hormones as you see on the screen. So we will do slightly different exercises today because we cannot do them all. And for that, I would like to see you, but unfortunately, the time is only very limited. Normally, we do 7-day retreats on this. So I've packed it into kind of a crème de la crème, the top. And I hope you can understand me. And if you don't, and also throughout this presentation, I would like you to jot down your questions. I love answering questions, and I will unpack more if you send them via chat or ask live after I finish. So let's look into these different concepts and how they activate different hormonal balance, because what we want is to create the homeostasis, the state of a balanced organism that is like, you know, animals in the wild, to be honest, like the work of Peter Levine on trauma. He was observing different animals and questioning why animals never have PTSDs, post-traumatic stress disorders. They all suffer from stress. They all suffer from trauma at some point because of the danger of other animals eating them. I mean, only everybody, including bears, and because we kind of unfortunately kill them or eat them or use for fur, but everybody gets scared, but they don't have PTSDs in the wild. Why? And he started looking into what happens with us humans and why do we keep to that stress. And this work unlocks some of the answers, tells you some of the answers, because it's based on the neuroscience. We know many answers from the research and from collective research, I call it. Then the body work, because we keep our stress in our body most of our life unless we release it, unless we do some sort of practice. Just talking about it does not help. I've tried all sorts of therapies myself, and I encourage you to try as many, because don't take my words for it. The best thing is to actually try yourself. And communication, the way how we talk to ourselves in our mind and the way how we communicate with others, how we connect, makes a huge difference. And that's part, in the middle is the sweet spot of the Enrich Method. Okay, so the first thing, explore, I put here intergenerational patterns. Explore intergenerational or multi-generational, transgenerational, some people say, patterns. And generally they are traumas or stress that travels through generation. Why is that important? Originally, I was dealing with individuals only, individual-based therapy, individual approaches, cognitive behavior, just focusing on the person on their own, thinking, you know, if the person can make a difference for themselves. And yes, there was some progress. There was some visible, tangible, and effective progress, but with some cases, it was not sustainable. Or there's something that would prevent a person to go. They understand why they do this bad thing. They understand how to do a good thing, how to change to a good habit, but something pulls them back into the bad habit. Why? That pattern that travels, maybe a single mother, single daughter, single grandmother. Why is that? Why is there a problem in relationships? Or, you know, the addiction of some sort, or they jump the generation, but there is some sort of pattern. And exploring those gives you cues and insights and clues into what to do with it. Because the best thing you can do as a psychologist, as a therapist, is to work on yourself and then help others work on their problems. Now, there's a variety of research and authors here. I just wanted to mention a few that are my favorite. If you are curious to learn more, I encourage you to find videos on YouTube, research on Google of Rachel Yehuda. She is at the forefront of the work on stress and post-traumatic stress disorder. She started this industry a long time ago, and she's still a big figure. She's a chair for Veteran Affairs, the combat of PTSD sort of main veterans, and she works in the psychiatry department. And her work is about understanding how this transgenerational trauma goes through the epigenetics. So how does it get triggered in our body and how to deal with it is great. Bessel van der Kolk has a wonderful book called The Body Keeps the Score. He has done a great review on this topic. So if you could get hold of that book, I highly recommend. Of course, Virginia Satir, the mother of family systemic therapy, and her two classics, the books, The New People Making and The Satir Model. Then Gabor Mate, Dr. Mate, he's a Holocaust survivor, and he's an eloquent speaker on the stress, trauma, and addictions, and how to help soothe transgenerational trauma. Bert Hellinger, he was inspired by the work of Virginia Satir and created the field of family systemic constellations. And Mark Wallen also, based on his tradition, wrote a great book, It Didn't Start With You. I highly recommend you read it. He refers to these previous researches as well, and very easy to read. He's not a doctor or a psychologist, but he's a really good writer. And sometimes that what it takes for us to learn is to find those little nuggets and gems, and then find more research that supports this work. Richard Schwartz, his internal family systems model is based on Virginia Satir, actually, Parts Party and family reconstruction. I love his take on the internal family systems because it also helps us move away from the stress, more into a feeling pleasure, because we can find sort of a balance between conflicting parts inside us. And often we are not motivated fully to do something, or we feel like lethargic or very, very tired because there was something not integrated yet inside it. There are two parts. One says, let's do exercise. Oh, I can't be bothered. It's too, it's too late. No, let's stop eating this rubbish food. Oh no, I just want to feel good. I had a bad day. So all these kind of little nuances, it's a wonderful practical way to look at this topic. Stephen Porges, the polyvagal theory I mentioned, and Deb Dan actually does it with in the context of therapy. Very, very good writers. And Peter Levine and his trauma and somatic experiencing method. Again, you have plenty of ideas here. You can take a picture of it, or you can write it down, but I really recommend you follow this. So the second one is from the Enrich, is Nourish. Nourish, of course, it starts with nourishing food, nourishing diet. It boosts your dopamine, serotonin, and also you have better sleep. To have better sleep, during the sleep, we already know that testosterone gets produced, and we have melatonin that helps us also relax and have the rejuvenation part of our body during sleep. Now, I'm gonna go a little bit faster, but in this part, it's very important to know that dopamine is one of the great hormones, the neurotransmitter that plays a role in motivation. And low dopamine level can cause depression, mood swings, sugar craving, addiction, low sex drive, poor attention and focus. What causes dopamine drop? Dopamine levels are depleted by stress. So guess what? In order for us to feel more motivated, we sort of need that little stress in order for us to kick the butt. But at the same time, long term, we cannot have too much stress. Poor nutrition and poor sleep deplete our dopamine level. Now, how to raise dopamine level? Do the opposite, but also it's important to know that there are some dopamines manufactured by breaking down the amino acid called tyrosine. Tyrosine can be obtained from food sources, especially with L-tyrosine, an amino acid precursor that crosses the blood-brain barrier and converts to dopamine. Okay, so if you eat too many carbs and feel tired, you may want to consider switching to foods that boost dopamine level, like bananas or green tea or watermelons, turmeric, spirulina, veggies, ginseng. I mean, it's like tons of things. If you're interested in this topic, write to me your email address and I'll send you an article that I published on this topic with all the nitty-gritty of that. Third, respond mindfully. Respond is all about meditation. I'm not going to share too much because you're probably flooded with other presenters talking about meditation and stress awareness. Fine. We will do a different practice on respond. I, remember Enrich, I stands for imagine. Imagine your happy place boost your endorphin level. And we have the same parts of our brain that get activated if we were in that place. Currently, we cannot be elsewhere, but we can imagine being at a beautiful beach and wonderful mountains, Swiss mountains, or on a boat. And by just doing the imaginative exercise, we activate the same neural connections as if we were in that happy place. connect or communicate boosts serotonin, and we activate our mirror neurons, the connectors to empathy, but also experiencing trust. And we need that so much, even through these Zoom experiences, connecting to somebody who is another human being or a pet or an animal, or seeing nature. Just this external connection rather than being just inside it helps us feel enriched, feel more connected, feel more motivated and less stressed. And finally, hugs and humor. Hugs are the best precursor for experiencing trust. When we hug, even hug yourself, just try to hug yourself for a moment. Just experience with your hands hugging your shoulders. And what happens? There are eggs-like cells in our skin that's called Pacinian corpuscles. Pacinian corpuscles that get activated when we hug, when we touch ourselves, and that sends a signal to our vagus nerve that goes from the top to the bottom and connects to all organs in our body, and sends signals: relax, it's all good, it's safe, I'm okay. And if you do that, there's a whole emotional soothing that takes place. And if you add humor and laughter, it's even more beneficial for you. Just keep doing that. Keep hugging yourself, because the more you do that, the better you will feel. And I would like us to see how, after doing this practice, your stress level changes and your happiness level changes and increases. Now, there's some research that says when we hug, even hug ourselves or imagine hugging somebody else, the beloved person, the person we haven't seen for a long time, but we're longing to be hugged, generally by our parents, but also our partners, our children, our grandparents, we have this oxytocin released, the hormone of trust, and we trust ourselves more. We see ourselves better from a better perspective, okay? And that brings us to the close of the method, but just one little note on the longevity study of the blue zones. I don't know if you've heard. Have you actually heard about the blue zones study, the research? The blue zones, there's a highest percentage of centenaries, people who live above 100, in these 5 zones around the world. So there's Loma Linda in California, Nicoya in Costa Rica, Sardinia in Italy, Ikari in Greece, and Okinawa in Japan. And interestingly, when they researched the reasons why they live the longest, and some argue the happiest, and that's kind of a subjective again, the main report was about the longevity. They found out some interesting insights. The first one was, of course, they eat healthy, but not so much healthy. I mean, people drink wine, and some people eat meat. Some people are vegetarians, like in Loma Linda. Some people eat fish, like in Japan. So there was no correlation of particular food. Yes, they noticed that all of them walked naturally, either up and down, like in Sardinia, there's a lot of steps, or in the field, they work up until a very late age. But they had the right tribe, the right community. What you guys doing with the Psychology Club, I love this. And the more you're connected to the right-minded people, the better it is for your health and longevity. And also, there was a story by the guy who actually was diagnosed with the last stage of cancer in America. He was Greek, and he had no money in America. He said, look, if I die, I will not be buried properly. I'd better go back to my island of Ikaria. And he flies back to prepare his grave, to meet his family. And there was a BBC series on it. It was so popular. 25 years later, he's still alive. All the doctors that told him about his cancer died. And he's still plowing through, collecting grapes, and doing the olive oil, connecting with his mates, drinking a local wine without preservatives, and having a good life. But all of them had very little stress. So remember, if you have chronic stress in your life, try to reduce it. Try to live from the examples of these blue zones. Okay, stress management or stress mastering toolbox. I have plenty of exercises to share with you. And I'm just thinking, shall we do these? Okay, let's do a couple just for you to experience them. So first of all, relax your tongue. Just put it down slowly on your lower jaw. Okay, that's the first exercise and the signal that sends to the parasympathetic nervous system that, okay, we are not stressed, because normally when we're stressed, we would clench our teeth and the tongue goes up. Second thing, maybe I can stop sharing so I can see you guys. And it's working. Can I see more of your videos? Thank you.
Lütfen kameranızı açabilir misiniz sizin için uygunsa?
Hi Saba.
Çok
Hi
teşekkürler.
Nesrin. Hi Julie. Elida. Nice to see you, Sila. Wonderful. We got 132. Sena, please turn back your camera so I can see you a little bit. And so wonderful to reconnect. Oh, great. We're going to give you a little tips and tricks about managing stress. Would you like that? Yeah?
Yes.
Would
yes.
you like that? Bit more cameras? Guys, could you bring more of your faces to switch on the camera? There's a bottom left camera button.
Lütfen kamerayı açabilenler açabilir mi? Darya çok rica ediyor bu konuda. Please, if it's okay for you, turn on your cameras.
Okay,
I think.
Okay, so first is tongue, lower tongue. Second thing is to relax your shoulders, open your palms, look a little bit up to the sky and smile. And notice how you feel in this position, because when we open our palms, we also send a signal to our body, to our brain, that there's no danger. And when we look up and smile and imagine beautiful sunshine and sky, it's impossible to feel sad. The body is wired for this position to experience joy and happiness. And the more you stay like this, with a smile on your face, looking up, with the open palms, the better you will feel. Okay? Another one, you can add slow rotations of your foot. If you put one leg on top of the other, your one foot, just rotate clockwise, slowly your foot, at the same time as opening to the smile and your tongue down. Okay? This trick was told by a Yale psychiatrist who has tried many different things with people who are bipolar, depressed, and he said, that foot rotation helped him the most in sessions. I don't know, I've tried with a few of my clients, but it's sort of a self-soothing exercise. Anyway, these are fun ways, somatic enriching practices that we have 5 more minutes before the questions. So I would like us to stand up, and I'm gonna share with you the rest of, remember I told you about the respond? Questions a little bit later. I call it stasis kinesis. In Greek, it's stance dance. There are 5 stress stances, the way how we cope with stress, and 5 flow ones. So I'm gonna briefly whiz through them, but I can send you the peer-reviewed article in a journal that I published. Again, send me your email addresses in the chat box so I can forward that to you if you want to. The first one is called the blamer. It's when we blame something or somebody and we sort of extend the finger, and you need to do it with your body to experience it. How about that? Would you like to stand up and pretend that you're angry at somebody? Yes, I need you to stand up, please. Yes, you're angry at somebody. You sort of show, this is a hormone of testosterone. Yeah, very focused, fighting, blaming. And the need is to protect, to feel safe, to feel peace. And once you lift your arm into a peaceful warrior stance and look up and smile, you notice how you change the inner cocktail of hormones.
And if you stay like this, rather than blame, you still have testosterone. It's a very powerful pose, but you start shifting in your body the stress. Okay, take it, shake it off, shake it off. The next one is the opposite. It's called placata. Placata is sort of a reaction to stress. When we say, "I'm so sorry, it's my fault," and you're right, you're big, you're strong, I'm weak, I'm little, and it's all about begging. And the needs are for love and care, stability and strength. And from that little position, we go into the power tree. It's the antidote, the flow state, when we grow and we spread our arms like tree branches and we feel strong, and the hormone estrogen floods and balances us. So we're going to go very quickly, but you can practice them. And the more you practice, the better you will get at it. Normally what we do in group therapy, we choose mama, papa, and a child, and we play out the childhood trauma, and we reshuffle, reshape, reconstruct, and then it goes into a state of beta, because the person has that meta position, and it's easier to observe rather than just experience, but it has a profound effect, and the work of Virginia Satir is paramount here. Okay, third one, super reasonable. It's like a computer, you know, all the facts and figures, and I don't want to talk about any uncomfortable topics. It's about feeling kind of good. I want my serotonin, but I'm just protected. And instead of you know, the people who are lawyers or engineers, business people are very good. Men are very good with this. Super reasonable, you know, being very super reasonable. The antidote to this pose is called a humble monk. You sort of like bow towards the person, and you have an acceptance. You know, you have a different position of the body, also soothing, but a very kind of different one. Okay, the fourth one, distractor. It's like a person with three hands. It's like adding chaos. Oh, how was your day? Okay, well, how's the weather? Let's not talk about difficult things. Let's just change topics. And it's all about this need for harmony. They cannot deal with the conflict. The opposite to distractor is called core harmonizer. It's like a Tai Chi, very, very stable stance. And that's also the one that brings the dopamine, but in a different kind of way, in a more congruent way. And finally, withdrawer. It's a person who doesn't talk at all, puts their back at the difficult thing and withdraws, moves away, not talking. The opposite is the world hugger, when we embrace with our body, open our arms, and feel how it is just to hug everybody, hug the world, hug ourselves, and produce that hormone oxytocin. So I've shared loads of things, guys, with you. So hopefully you have questions for me. Serenade, over to you.
Of course. Everyone, please ask your questions from chat section. And Darya, one of our participants asked that, can you share this slide with us, and we will share this with our participants. Is it okay for you?
Yes, which slide?
This slide that you shared with us today, if it is okay for you.
Oh, the slides. Okay, well, we will talk how to best do that. Maybe
okay.
The PDF version, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So please, if you have a question, ask them from the chat section, and I'll be reading them to Darya.
Darya, maybe you can tell about your newsletter so they can get newsletter. I know that you are using the slides in your training, so maybe it's not appropriate to share with the audience, but if they're interested, they can join your newsletter.
Someone
is raising hand. Ilayda, you can speak.
Just a note to say, yes, if you go to the daryahaitoglou.com, there's a, you can sign to my newsletter where I share, I will share this presentation so you will see the slides. And also there's monthly workshops where we play different tools. We play with tools with people from around the world. It's a fantastic environment, so I invite you to join. And if you write to me and ask, my email is darya@enrich.global. And let me share actually this also social media connections. The inner circle is what And I wanted to ask you, what are you going to commit? Because we didn't have time because of the technical difficulties. What are you going to commit from today's presentation? Please choose one thing and notice also, right, how and what shifted in your scale, either stress, happiness, or motivation. Okay, I would really like to know, and then we'll have the chat box printed, sent to me, hopefully, and then I'll have a look at that. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, the.family.psychologist, on Facebook. I mean, pretty much all media. Also, Enrich Global on Instagram, the company, and yes, Elida.
Yeah, Elida, please mute your voice.
Hi there. First of all, I want to say a massive thank you about this meeting. It was really brilliant and good way to spend a Saturday. I want to ask you to, as a future psychologist and a studying psychology major, and the whole pandemic stuff is kind of stressful. And also my personality is too stressful too. And you as a psychologist and as a coach, while you work with the people suffering anxiety or high level anxiety, how can you keep your stress level in a line and not involved in the anxiety? Or, I mean, when you put yourself in their shoes, how can you keep your mental health in a stable way?
It's a great question. Thank you very much for asking. It's a struggle. I am like you. I suffer from sometimes burnout because I love what I do. I give a lot of myself and my time to people. And of course, my family sometimes suffer because they want time with me. I don't have enough time. So what helps me is to have this inventory. When I connect to my community of people, we have the Satir Global, for example, weekly call now. I have my mentors, coaches, and therapists, myself, of course, to have resources. There's a continuation of studying. I always study, doing doctorate now, degree, just to continue learning new ways that soothe me. I like to learn. That's the best way for me to relax my brain. And I live next to 60 hectares of wildlife in the UK, and then in Greece we go into the sea to ground, to go barefoot on the ground so that I can feel myself again into my body, because a lot of the time we're stressed in our mind, in our brain. So how can you incorporate these little practices that I've shared, the tongue down, the palms up, the smile, the foot rotation, these little practices and connection to nature.
Okay, thank you so much. It was really helpful.
Welcome. Thank you. If you just imagine connecting to the person next to you in just spread, like showing your palms and smiling and bringing your camera, hopefully, just feel how it feels to connect with people. Yes, you see, naturally you start smiling more, right? Because we are wired for connection. Remember that Enrich Method is just a common sense, a compilation of things that work. And I hope you can get something. Please tell me, what are you gonna commit to? That's the most important. What are you gonna do with this information? It's not just listening, it's actually implementing one thing. Write down. And don't worry about your English. I'm not English speaker, native. So I understand that when I started studying in the university, I couldn't speak English. So you're already doing better than me. So please let me know what one thing from today's presentation you're going to commit to. And I love that you're sharing your emails. I'm going to take all of them and send you the information, and please respond, because sometimes my emails go to spam. I don't know if you received them or not, but respond to me and tell me what you're committing to. It's going to be external motivation. I'm sure Edwin, next presenter, will tell you more about goal setting and motivation, but external motivation sometimes works too. So I would like you to tell me what you're going to commit, how your stress level changed, if it did or it didn't, why, were you fully present, were you fully motivated or not, because there's a correlation. I told you from the beginning, if you're going to be fully present, you will notice some changes. And Yes. Thank you. If you want to send to privately, there's a private chat as well, or send to me an email. Please do. I am longing to connect, as many of you. We are sitting in our homes, and the more heartbeat connections we can have, the better it is for all of us and for the humanity. And I hope you will grow into a mature and wise psychologist who can then bring your skills, your wonderful self, to more people, to help souls around your world, around your families, and maybe in other countries. So please come and visit. Please connect. Tell me what you've learned and how you're going to implement what you've learned. Even it's 1 hour, but that 1 hour, I remember when I listened to somebody who I really liked, and I took that insight, that information, implemented in my life, and it changed my life. So that's what is, we can listen to many, many things, but what are you actually committed to? Okay. So
thank you so
thank you
much.
so much, everybody. Thank you. It's been my pleasure, and let's stay in touch.
Thank you so much, Darya, for being with us, with your informative speech. And we are very glad to have a chance to meet with you on Psychology Days. And thank you so much again. I can't describe my feelings right now to have a chance to meet with you and all the participants. Thank you so much. So,
Big hug.
bye.
Big hug. Imagine hugging.